I won't be watching, but if you're interested in watching Jake Paul's fight tonight, make Walters your spot to do so if you don't want to deal with pay-per-view. Fight card starts at 9 p.m.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Here is Ruiz with 2 outs. There goes Wood. Now he stops and the pitch is hit in the air to deep right center field. Way back it goes. Fairchild looking up and it is gone. A 2-run homer for Ruiz, and the Nats lead 4-1.
The kick and the pitch. Swing and a long drive to left field. This is way back. Warning track wall, and it is gone. Goodbye. Bang! Zoom goes Juan Yepez with his first home run in a Washington Nationals uniform. It is a 3-run shot to straightaway left field. And it's now the Nationals 7 and the Reds 1. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Once again, runners lead second and third. 2 out the pitch. Swinging a ground ball right side, backhanded by Garcia. He plants, he throws to Yepez, and a curly W's in the books.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Saturday, July 20th, 2024. Along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. We are back from the All-Star break. We hope that you had a nice All-Star break. It ended up including 2 Nats as All-Stars. We knew about shortstop C.J. Abrams, and then closer Kyle Finnegan on Monday ended up being a super late addition to the National League All-Star team. Congrats to him. And Friday evening at Nationals Park, Finnegan ended up being a surprising participant late in a game in which the Nats led going into the 9th inning 8-1. But the Nats did win, an 8-5 win over the Cincinnati Reds in Game 1 of a 3-game series. The Nats for this regular season are 45-53. Now, we on Friday afternoon did get some very bad, though not unexpected Nats news. Starting pitcher Josiah Gray is in fact done for the season. He on Wednesday will undergo season-ending UCL surgery of some kind. We on Friday afternoon also heard from Nats president of baseball operations and general manager Mike Rizzo, who did his first formal session with reporters since the start of this regular season. The Nats on Friday announced the signings of multiple 2024 draft picks, including Wake Forest University shortstop Seaver King, who the Nats took last Sunday night with the number 10 overall pick in the 2024 MLB draft. But Mark, here we are. The post-All-Star break portion of the season has begun. The Nats on Friday evening got 2 big home runs, got a very nice outing from the birthday boy, starting pitcher Patrick Corbin, and then had to hold on tight in that Reds 4-run ninth. But the Nats did get the win.
You know, this was shaping up to be really a best-case scenario kind of ball game, Al. I mean, you potentially are going to win a blowout in a Patrick Corbin start, not necessarily what I think most people would expect going in, and then they turned that 9th inning into way more dramatic than it ever needed to be and made all the Carly Rae Jepsen fans have to wait it out to get the post-game concert. So not a perfect game by any stretch. There were things that were concerning, but a good start from Patrick Corbin, some power from the lineup was very nice to see that, some sustained offense, very nice to see. And while the pregame news, as you said, was not great with Josiah Gray, didn't come totally out of left field. And so I think in the end, it's a good day for the team and a good way to start off the second half of the season.
Yeah, there are major implications with the Gray news. We will get to those, but let us revel in the positive, if we may. This was the rare Nats game this season in which the team had more runs than hits, and that does speak to the power of the Nats. On Friday evening, 8 runs on 7 hits, which included 2 home runs and a double to go with 4 singles. The Nats drew 4 walks. The Nats went 2 for 8 with runners in scoring position. The 2 home runs came from Ruiz and Juan Yepez. Ruiz, he on Friday evening as the Nats starting catcher and number 7 batter, 1 for 4 with a 2-run homer, did strike out twice, but K-Bear in the Nats 4-run fourth, a 2-out, 2-run homer to right field for a 4-1 Nats lead, the homer going a projected 405 feet per StatCast. And then Juan Yepez. The All-Star break did not cool him off. Yepez on Friday evening as the Nats starting first baseman and cleanup batter, 2 for 4 with a 3-run homer and a single. He, in the top of the 4th, did commit a missed catch error, one of 3 errors by the Nats in this game. Yepez defensively at first base is not great. I think we've seen enough to be able to say that. But Yepez in the Nats 3-run 5th on Friday evening, a 2-out, 3-run homer to left field on a 1-2 pitch for a 7-1 Nats lead, and Yepez in that Nats 4-run 4th, a 1-out first pitch single up the middle. 2 home runs that really stood out, and to your point earlier, we're not used to seeing that. It was very nice to see that on Friday evening.
And nice to see it from these 2 guys, or these 2 positions, let's say. For Ruiz, we've now seen over a few weeks hitting the ball with a lot more authority. Now, he's got to do this over a longer stretch before we declare anything in the bigger picture. But boy, has that been a nice development to see. That was a good swing he put on the ball, hit it with some real authority, and we've seen this now from him over several weeks. So I'm very encouraged by that development from him. And as far as Yepez is concerned, they have needed offense from the first base position. There's no getting around that. He has now given them at least 1 hit in all 11 games he has played for them. And for the first time, he's hit a home run. There were a lot of doubles in there this time. I don't know how he turned on the pitch that he got. It was a fastball way in off the plate. He somehow got his hands inside it and hit the ball really well to left field for the home run. That's one of the better swings I've seen from anybody this season, given the location of the pitch. So to actually get that kind of production out of your first baseman, which we know has been such a problem for them. The defense has not been good. I do have some real concerns there with him. But in this case, kind of the old Adam Dunn adage, drive in more than you let in, and he did that in this game.
Yes, he did very much. And the single that Yepez had the second highest exit velocity of the game, 106.9 miles per hour per StatCast. It was only 2 weeks ago that the Nats brought up Yepez from AAA-Rochester. July 5th was when they announced that they had selected the contract of Yepez from Rochester. Friday was July 19th, and Yepez now, since being promoted to the majors, 47 plate appearances. I mean, the sample size is not that large. It's not like he's been around for that long, and yet Yepez has produced to the tune of an OPS well over 1,078. Batting average of 390, on base percentage 468, a slugging percentage of 610. It has been a real pleasure to watch him do as he has done. And, with Ruiz, I think you could argue that the post-All-Star break portion of this season is as important for K-Bear in terms of beyond this season as it is for any Nationals player. I think we're more into like how James Wood does, C.J. Abrams does, etc. But when you talk about moving beyond this season, I think whether K-Bear is the Nats' number 1 priority at catcher beyond this season may well be on the line over these final few months of this regular season. It's nice to see him going well right now.
Yeah, look, I think we know that regardless, barring some kind of health problem, James Wood's going to be in their starting lineup next year. C.J. Abrams is going to be in their starting lineup next year. Keibert Ruiz, you want to believe that's going to be true, but if he were to continue to do in the second half what he did for most of the first half, you are going to have questions about that all of a sudden. So yeah, it is a big time for him, and that's why I said it's been nice to see this progression here. I know that the season totals still don't look great because he dug himself into such a hole, but I'm seeing not just the results, but the process has been a lot better. Taking good, aggressive swings, not just trying to put the bat on the ball, actually trying to drive the ball. I've seen the same from Luis Garcia as well. We've seen that a little bit more consistently from him or over different stretches of the season, and I think it's an important second half for him as well. But no, I agree. Out of everybody clearly the most disappointing player on the team in the first half is Keibert Ruiz. Aside from Josiah Gray, and that's because of an injury. Performance reasons, it's Keibert Ruiz by a mile. The season's only 60% done. And so there is an opportunity for him still to turn this around, make something of it, and maybe put to rest any of those doubts that people are starting to have about him. So to see this now coming from him, again, I think is a very encouraging development.
Well, Mark mentioned James Wood. Wood on Friday evening as the Nats starting left fielder and number 5 batter, 1 for 4 with a 2-run single and 3 strikeouts. So Wood in the Nats 4-run fourth, a 1-out 2-run single through the right side of the infield for a 2-1 Nats lead. He then appeared to get struck by the throw back into the infield. That was kind of odd, but good to see James Wood come through with that single. Now, James Wood in this game did strike out 3 times. And if you look at what he's done now since being promoted to the majors, James Wood has accumulated 64 plate appearances. He has struck out 23 times. The strikeout number is alarmingly high. I don't want to overreact to it because we still are only talking about 15 games for him at the major league level. But boy, that is a lot of strikeouts. 23 Ks out of 64 plate appearances. So props to him for the 2-run single. I don't want to minimize that. But what do you make of the strikeout issue with James Wood?
Well, here's the thing. It goes hand in hand with a lack of walks. You divide up his, time up here now into 2 parts. This first week in the big leagues, when he was hitting the ball really hard and actually drawing, I think it was 6 walks to 7 strikeouts. So almost 50-50 ratio there of walks to strikeouts. And then the second week plus this game, he's now struck out a bunch and he has 0 walks in that same amount of time. What I've seen is teams are starting him off with off-speed stuff and then finishing him off with fastball. So kind of pitching backwards to him. That is an adjustment by the league, seeing that this guy can hit fastballs, stay away from that. Also seeing how patient he was at the plate, thinking we can get ahead in the count by fooling him, get him to 2 strikes, and now maybe you can get him when he's thinking off speed and then can't react in time to the fastball. So I'm seeing that. I think in this game, it was all 3 strikeouts, I believe, were on fastballs. So there's a clear pattern of how this is going. Now, we knew there were going to be adjustments. That's the way baseball works. You come up there, you've got all the skills in the world, you show them off. Now the league starts to figure out, they do something different, and it's up to you to make that adjustment. I have no doubt he's going to figure that out. There's no reason to believe that this guy, given his pedigree, his success at every level, that he's not going to figure that out. But it is pretty glaring right now. It was nice of him to get the single, put, much better vibe for him in this game, but the strikeouts are becoming kind of alarming, and it goes hand in hand with a lack of walks. He's getting behind in the count, and then he's striking out on fastballs.
And he still has just 2 extra base hits, and they both came in the same game. James Wood at the major league level here, 14 hits, 12 of which have been singles. 2 other Nats position players I want to highlight in terms of the offensive performances on Friday evening. Jacob Young, he is the Nats starting center fielder at number 9 batter, 2 for 3 with a double and a bunt single. And he went 2 for 2 on stolen bases. Young in the Nats 3-run fifth, a leadoff first pitch, bunt single toward first base on what was like a perfect bunt. And he had to steal a second base. And then Young in the Nats 1-run seventh, a leadoff double to left field, and he had a steal of third base. Jacob Young's offensive numbers have dried up a bit, and so his stolen bases have actually slowed down quite a bit. So good to see him get a couple of stolen bases in this game. And then Jesse Winker. We may well be seeing the final days of Jesse Winker as a National. Presumably, he's going to be traded come the MLB trade deadline on Tuesday, July 30th at 6 p.m. Eastern. But Jesse Winker in this game on Friday evening, once again, an on-base machine. He is the Nats starting DH and number 3 batter, 1 for 1 with a single and 3 walks. And he went 2 for 2 on stolen bases. A very efficient game for Jesse Winker. Bottom of the first, a 2-out walk. Winker in the Nats 4-run fourth, a 1-out walk despite having been down to the count at 1.12. Winker in the Nats 3-run fifth, a 2-out single into center field. And he had to steal a second base. And Winker in the Nats 1-run seventh, a 2-out intentional walk. And he had a steal of second base. If, in fact, the Nats are about to trade Jesse Winker, they are going to miss the offensive production that this guy has provided. The frequency with which he has gotten on base really has been impressive, and he's been pretty consistent with it this season. I know maybe here and there has been some slumping from Winker, but by and large, he has gotten on base at a pretty steady rate throughout this regular season.
Pretty much the only knock on him offensively has been that he takes strike three a decent amount on borderline pitches and usually argues with the umpire over it. His patience and ability to just maintain that approach, to me, has been remarkable. I didn't know that about him at all, that he could do that. He's drawing walks. He works long at bats and counts. Even if he makes an out, it's usually, on the sixth, the seventh pitch, making the pitcher work. It's something that they just do not have a lot of in this lineup. And so, yeah, it is absolutely going to be noticeable if, and probably more likely when, he is gone at the end of the month. But good on them for ultimately getting the most out of him, turning a minor league free agent, hopefully into a prospect of some type. I give him a lot of credit because I'm sure in his situation, he's got to be thinking at times, okay, just start swinging a little bit more, swing for the fences. And no, he has maintained that approach and that level of patience, willing to go to a full count whenever necessary, even to take a 3-2 pitch that's on the edge that could be called a strike or not. It's such an uncommon approach among so many guys in this lineup that it has been nice to see that from him. And I don't know how they're going to make up for that over the final 2 months of the season. It's probably going to be a pretty significant loss for them, if we're being honest.
Jesse Winker's on base percentage for this regular season now at .381.
This summer, Nats Chat Podcast had the pleasure of receiving a bunch of Omaha steaks in the mail. Meat is so expensive at restaurants these days. If you're like me and you crave steak for dinner on the right occasion, ordering from Omaha Steaks is the way to go. The first meat I fired up was filet mignon, always been my favorite since I was a kid, and the Omaha Steaks version was no different. Shop the Hotter Than Fire sale today and get exclusive savings on packages to begin at $99. Plus, get an extra $10 off with the promo code NATSCHAT at checkout. Every steak and every entree is vacuum sealed and ready when you want to grill. Omaha Steaks is so confident in their meat that it's a 100% money-back guarantee situation. So for the final stretch of grilling season, make sure to check out Omaha Steaks' Hotter Than Fire sale. Get exclusive savings on packages that start at just $99. Plus, get an extra $10 off with promo code NATSCHAT at checkout.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Here's your AAA report for the game played on Friday night. Dylan Cruz, center field, leadoff with a single and a walk. Hitting sixth, playing third base, Brady House, a double, and struck out twice. His OPS at the AAA level, .813. Now back to the show.
2-2 on Spencer Steer. Corbin ready. Here's the kick and the pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a slider. On his 35th birthday, Patrick Corbin tosses 6 innings and allows 1 run against the Cincinnati Reds. Looking for that second win of the season. Corbin getting a nice hand as he departs after striking out Steer to end the top of the 6th.
So the Nats' starting pitcher for this 8-5 win over the Reds on Friday evening was Patrick Corbin. Friday was Patrick's birthday. He turned 35, so we say happy birthday to Patrick Corbin. And he celebrated his birthday with one of his better outings this season. Corbin on Friday evening, 1 run in 6 innings. He gave up just 3 hits, all of which were singles. He had 6 strikeouts versus no walks. He threw 104 pitches, 65 strikes versus 39 balls. There really aren't many nits to pick with this outing from Corbin. I give him props. He did a good job in this game. And, as bad as this season has been for him, what is, as we have talked about many times, right, yet another bad season for Corbin, would it surprise you to know that Patrick Corbin now for this regular season has as many quality starts as MacKenzie Gore has? 5. Not that quality starts is like the ultimate standard for judging a pitcher, but we have seen this with Corbin this season. He has had plenty of bad outings. There's no doubt about that. But he has had some good ones, too. And you could argue that Friday evening was, if not his best outing this season, then certainly among the best.
That stat may say more about MacKenzie Gore than Patrick Corbin, unfortunately. But yeah, he actually has been better than we've seen for the most part the last few years. And the reason is he is consistently giving them 6 innings. And even though it hasn't been a tremendous amount of run prevention, he's usually not giving up more than 4 runs, say, in those 6 innings. Sometimes maybe it gets a little worse than that, but he hasn't had those kind of just awful starts that we've kind of gotten used to from him over the years. I think what's stunning is, and I thought this game was heading down the same path. I don't know what it is, but it feels like the Nationals cannot score runs for him and cannot play defense for him. And the first 3 innings of this game, that's where it was going. The 1 run he gave up was not his fault. That was Juan Yepez just dropping a throw on a really nice play by Patrick Corbin. And then he gets the guy picked off, and Yepez can't get the ball out of his glove, and it's an errant throw and no tag. So that to me said so much about, for whatever reason, they just do not play good baseball behind Patrick Corbin. And they were being shut out through the first 3 innings. I'm thinking, oh, here we go again. So they flipped the switch. They scored him some runs finally, and he finished the start and did really well with it. And look, this ties in with the Josiah Gray line. We've talked about this for quite a while, that until there is a clearly better and healthy option than Patrick Corbin, he's going to remain in the rotation. You and I both thought that day was coming a month ago, probably. It didn't happen. I don't think it's coming soon. Patrick Corbin is going to remain in this rotation for better or worse. You just hope there are more starts like this where he's giving them a chance and ultimately winning. This is his first win since May 10th. Only the second time the Nats have won one of his starts since May 10th. That's more than 2 months. This is only the second time they've won a game that he has started. So you hope for more of this, but I think we know at this point what you're getting and what you're really asking for here.
His ERA now is at 5.35. It would be a moral victory if he could end the regular season with an ERA under 5. That's my challenge to Patrick Corbin. Can he do it? Strive to be under 5. That is the mantra for Patrick Corbin the rest of this regular season. We'll see if he, in fact, gets there. And then we had the Nats bullpen on Friday evening. 5 Nats relievers ended up being utilized in this game. They combined to allow 4 runs in 3 innings. All 4 of the runs came in the top of the 9th. So you have a fresh bullpen coming out of the All-Star break. And from the get-go, Davey Martinez, in a game in which his team is leading 8-1 in the 9th inning, has to end up using 5 relievers. Although I will say this, and this is good news for the Nats, specifically their bullpen, there actually are a decent number of scheduled off days for the Nats in this post-All-Star break portion of the season. So we're not going to have too many of those brutal, 2+ week stretches without any scheduled off days for the Nats moving forward here the rest of this season. But yeah, the bullpen on Friday evening. So things started off well. Jacob Barnes was really good. A perfect top of the 7th with 3 strikeouts. Jordan Weems tossed a scoreless top of the 8th. Then came the returning Jose A. Ferrer. The Nats on Friday afternoon announced having reinstated Ferrer from the 60-day injured list. He had been on that since March 24th due to a left lat strain. The corresponding roster move was the Nats optioning reliever Amos Willingham to Rochester. But this return of Jose Ferrer to the majors did not go well. He in this Reds 4-run 9th officially allowed 3 runs in a third of an inning. He faced 4 batters, but got just 1 out. Then Derek Law came into the game. He officially allowed 1 run in a third of an inning. He faced 3 batters, but got just 1 out. He came into the game with a man on base, and we know what that means. Law came into the game top of the 9th, runner on second, 1 out. Nats up 8-3. Law, to the first batter he faced, issued a 1-out walk of Noelvi Marte, and Law, 2 batters later, gave up a pinch 2-out, 2-run double to right field by Jake Fraley to cut the Nats lead to 8-5. And also on the play was a throwing error by second baseman Luis Garcia Jr. So Davey Martinez, in a 9th inning that began with his team up 8-1, had to go to a third pitcher in the inning, his closer, Kyle Finnegan, Finnegan, to the first batter he faced, issued a walk, a 2-out, 7-pitch walk of Jonathan India. But Finnegan, the all-star, then got Ellie De La Cruz to ground out to mercifully end the game and get the save. That got way too close for comfort in that ninth inning.
It never should have gotten to the point that Kyle Finnegan had to even warm up, let alone come into that game. Let's go through here the problems. And all three guys who pitched walked the first batter they faced. Obviously a no-no. Now, you say, okay, it's the first game out of the All-Star break. You're a little rusty. Okay, whatever. You cannot do that as a reliever. First batter walk is always a recipe for disaster. You have two of the three in Ferrer and Law committing fielding mistakes, not knowing where to be. You had Ferrer late to cover first on a ground ball. That could have been an out that sped things up and ended the game sooner. And you had Law not backing up on that double that you talked about. He's kind of caught in no man's land as the ball gets past the catcher. So very sloppy, not paying attention to where they needed to be. Finnegan, the leadoff walk, and then he gets the out. But I think I would have been okay if Davey had left Law to face one more batter. It's still 8-5 at that point. There's one runner on. He can't blow the game on one pitch. You're facing Jonathan India. Try to get out of it and avoid using your closer. And then if he does let India get on, now you bring in Finnegan to face De La Cruz. So maybe you somehow can get through the game without having to use your closer. I understand why he did it. I would have, I think, liked to see him push that a little further and not had to do it. In the bigger picture, it's good that Ferrer is healthy and back. That gives him a second lefty, something they haven't had all year. Obviously, he's going to have to be better than what we saw in this game, but you saw the stuff. You saw a strikeout. He can hit 99 with his fastball. Hopefully, he just needs to get into a rhythm here, and that'll be fine. Law, very frustrating, of course, in that situation. And the fact that he even had to go to Finnegan, that game never should have come to that point.
The thing with Law and the inherited runners, we've talked about it. It is remarkable. And you do wonder, I think we have discussed this aspect of it, if it's in his head, because he comes into the game with a runner on. Was there a Nats fan on the planet who expected that runner not to score? Like, no, that just is the season that Derek Law is having. You know, also in that Reds 4-run ninth was an error by Lane Thomas. He committed a fielding error. The Nats in this game, 3 errors. To go with the other defensive miscues, Mark just outlined some of them that did not go down as errors. Know this, the Nats came into this game on Friday as one of the worst teams in the majors in terms of defensive runs saved on the season. This is not a good defensive team. And, you know, we've talked about where the Nats are defensively and them trying to be better defensively. The season has not gone well from a defensive standpoint for the Nats. There are a few individuals who are doing well defensively, but like the overall team numbers in terms of the advanced defensive stats are not good. And once again, that is a problem for this team, catching the baseball. And like we said, it's not just errors. It's other things that you notice when you watch these games, and that did stand out in this game.
Are you looking for tickets to an upcoming event? That's why you should download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. You get cheaper tickets, and it helps the podcast a bit. Sounds like a smooth 6-4-3 double play. Again, create an account and redeem the code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
This podcast is supported by IPVanish VPN. If you care about the security of your online activity, the easiest way to protect yourself is with IPVanish. With a rating of excellent on Trustpilot, IPVanish provides an encrypted connection for all your internet traffic, helping to prevent websites, Wi-Fi providers, and hackers from intercepting your data. Help keep your financial details, personal information, and online activity safe from threats with IPVanish. Get started with this limited time offer and save 83% on your 2-year subscription. Visit ipvanish.com/bluewire. That's ipvanish.com/bluewire.
He's going to have surgery. He's had a slight tear of his UCL. At this point, he's going to have the surgery. We don't know whether they're going to do the brace or do the full. So only time will tell when they go in there and explore and see how bad the tear is. So he's going to be out a while.
So the Josiah Gray news, it is brutal news. There's no way around this. Yes, it was expected, but this still is very unfortunate news. So we on Friday afternoon did learn that Josiah Gray has a partially torn right UCL and will be undergoing season-ending surgery. The surgery will take place this Wednesday. It is on that day that it'll be determined whether he needs Tommy John surgery or another form of UCL surgery. But Gray is done for the season and is potentially out for much of next season. You feel terrible for Gray. Last season, of course, a big-time step-forward season. He was the Nats' lone all-star. Gray, for last regular season, made 30 starts, had a wins above replacement per Baseball Reference at 3.1. But this season really has been just completely ruined by injury. April 9th was when the Nats put Gray on the 15-day injured list, retroactive to April 6th, with a right elbow/right forearm flexor strain. This marked the first time that Gray went on a major league injured list, and now he's going to miss much of, maybe even most of, 2 consecutive seasons. June 30th came that disastrous outing in his minor league rehab assignment, 7 runs in 3 innings in what was the 5th start of his minor league rehab assignment. His velocity in the outing was down. Davey Martinez on July 2nd revealed that Gray in that outing had experienced right elbow discomfort and that Gray had been shut down and that Gray was to undergo an MRI exam. The Nats on July 5th moved Gray to the 60-day injured list, and now on Friday comes the news that he needs season-ending UCL surgery. There's a lot to think about with this. You feel for Gray, the player and the person, of course, but from a club perspective, this is Gray's age 26 season. He's under team control through the 2027 season, and because he's not undergoing this season-ending UCL surgery until late July, he's going to end up having 2 seasons severely impacted by this injury. He made just 2 starts at the major league level this regular season. And like I said, depending on the kind of surgery he gets, he could miss/likely will miss a sizable chunk of next regular season. 2 years of team development, 2 years of service time for Gray from a team perspective, more or less out the window.
It's pretty much worst case scenario as far as this goes. Had he made 2 starts in April, said my elbow hurts, they find out, oh, you tore your ligament. Okay, you're having Tommy John. You're out for the year, but you should be back for the vast majority of 2025. That would have been awful, but you could have at least said, okay, they caught it immediately. He's out for a year. He's back the next year. Hopefully he takes off from there. And instead, as you said, you just spent the last 3.5 months hoping that he was coming back. Looked like he was on the verge of coming back, and then he doesn't. And now you're just starting the clock all over again. Now, we don't know exactly what is going to be done. This is a case where they know there is at least some tear of the UCL. But until Dr. Meister in Dallas actually goes in there on Wednesday, they aren't going to make the call on what kind of surgery to give. So there are a few different things. And this has changed somewhat in recent years. It used to be you either have Tommy John or you don't. You try to rehab it and hope the ligament holds up. What they can do now is the internal brace procedure. This is what Sean Doolittle had. A bunch of other pitchers have had this more recently. It's a less invasive, shorter timeline for coming back. It's essentially a way to not reconstruct the ligament, but to strengthen it so that it will hold up. It's possible he can get away with just doing that, but it's also possible you go in there and you do the Tommy John, and it's also possible he goes in there and does the Tommy John and the internal brace as like an extra measure to lock it up. And we've seen this happening more and more with pitchers here in the last couple of years, I would say. So that changes. All those different things are going to change whatever the potential timeline is. If it's just an internal brace, in theory, he could be back early next season. If it's Tommy John, we know how this works. It's 12 at least months, sometimes longer. And if it's Tommy John and the internal brace, I would imagine they're going to be especially careful with the recovery on that. So all of it obviously is unfortunate. It reminds me somewhat, and I hate to say this, but it reminds me a lot of a Joe Ross kind of situation where he was hurt. They tried to rehab it. Looked like he was close to coming back, and no, actually it re-injured, and they had to have the surgery. And we know how his career turned out here. It just never took off because he couldn't keep himself healthy. Now, Josiah Gray has done more prior to this point than Joe Ross ever did. Made the All-Star team, was healthy the last 2 seasons. But as you point out, by the time he comes back, he's looking at about 2+ years of club control left. It will have been a long time since he has pitched competitively in the big leagues. This is not a guy who was pitching at peak form at the time that he got hurt. So to have any idea of what he's going to be when he comes back from this, I don't think anybody can say that definitively. The good news, a bunch of other guys have stepped up and shown that they can be a part of this rotation and lead the rotation for years to come. You just hate to think the idea that they may be moving forward as they move into this next phase of trying to contend again. And one of the two key guys they got in the Scherzer-Turner trade may not really be that significant of a part of it.
Yeah, and you look at that trade now, right? 4 guys were gotten by the Nats. 2 of the guys are long gone. Another guy, Keibert Ruiz, let's be honest, has been a disappointment. He has not been what he was supposed to be. And now Josiah Gray is going to miss a good chunk of 2 consecutive seasons due to UCL surgery. So not ideal. You know, when Gray initially went on the 15-day IL in April, it was said that there was nothing structurally wrong. It was said that this was actually kind of a best-case scenario given the reality. What appears to be the case, and I guess we can't say this with certainty, is that this partial tear of the UCL happened after he went on the IL, that he injured this while coming back, maybe injured this in that 5th minor league rehab outing, and that's when he actually suffered the partial tear. So it's not like you could say, well, he should have had this surgery back in April. He didn't have the tear in the UCL, it would appear, back in April. This really did play out in the worst possible way, and again, he's not having this surgery until late July. This has taken a while to develop. And so, you know, usually with a surgery like this, you want to get it done and get the recovery process started. This is going to take a while to get the surgery done. And so the recovery process is going to spill well into next season. There's also this, one of the wonderful things about the rises of Jake Irvin and Mitchell Parker, and to a lesser extent, DJ Hers, was that it made us think, you know, maybe the Nats are going to have a rotation of homegrown talent or talent that was developed at least in part by the team. The team is not going to have to spend big money in the free agent market on starting pitching or make a trade for starting pitching. Now I think you have to reevaluate that. If Josiah Gray is going to be out for a good chunk of next season, if you have designs on contending next season, is starting pitching now a big-time priority this coming offseason? And it is worth noting, if you look at the projected free agent class for starting pitchers this offseason, it is quite enticing. Now, not all of these guys will necessarily be free agents, but take a listen to this list. Garrett Cole, who has an opt-out. Blake Snell, who has an opt-out. Justin Verlander, vesting option. Max Scherzer, set to be a free agent. Corbin Burnes, set to be a free agent. Clayton Kershaw has a player option. Max Fried, Shane Bieber, Jordan Montgomery, vesting option. Walker Buehler, on and on I can go. A lot of starting pitching options. Now, with so many of these guys getting injured right now, I don't know if it's wise to be spending big money on starting pitchers, but this could be a very juicy offseason for the Nats in terms of the free agent market. Got to see what Mike Rizzo is allowed to do by the learners. But I think things just got mighty interesting come November, December, and January for the Nats.
The sense that I got all winter long from them was that while they knew they were going to need starting pitching help, and not to say that they were in a position where ownership would have let them go for broke on one of the guys who was a free agent this past winter, but internally they knew that the next class was really loaded in big-time free agent pitchers. And the feeling was if they as an organization felt they were now ready to win again, and that could be one of those final pieces of the puzzle you need to get, and ownership has given the green light to go spend in free agency again, that was the most likely area they would go after. Now, I think there was a point earlier in the year that you may have said, well, maybe that's not going to be necessary. If you have a rotation, homegrown, of MacKenzie Gore and Cade Cavalli, by the way, who we have not seen yet, and Josiah Gray and Jake Irvin and Mitchell Parker and DJ Hers and whoever else might emerge from all this, that maybe you could get by without going out and spending a fortune and taking a huge risk on a free agent pitcher. Maybe you can spend your money on a big bat, a first baseman, something that they probably need as well. Now, we're going to have to wait and see how this all plays out. But I do think the combination of all these things, the fact that Gore, while has looked really good at times, has not been consistent, the fact we have not seen Cavalli yet, who knows how much we're going to see or how much you're really going to know about him going into the winter, the fact that Josiah Gray is now going to be out for quite some time, it definitely puts a spotlight more on the rotation where you may be able to argue that is going to be their number one need this winter, which I think all along is what they probably expected. But there was that brief period there earlier in the year that you thought, we may actually be all right from pitching standpoint. We may be able to spend that money on offense instead.
Yeah, the Cade Cavalli thing is an entirely different conversation, but we did get an update on him on Friday prior to the game. It turns out he did not go to Florida for the All-Star break as had been originally planned. He took time off. He's going to meet with team doctors and then go to West Palm Beach in the coming days to start ramping up again. So when this guy will be pitching at the major league level again, we don't know. But yeah, it has taken a while for him to come back from his Tommy John, which he underwent in March 2023. I mentioned at the top of the show that Mike Rizzo did do a session with reporters on Friday, and he hit on a variety of topics. He did discuss potentially trading Kyle Finnegan and Lane Thomas. So when it comes to the trade deadline on July 30th, I think most of us expect Jesse Winker to be dealt. He's on an expiring contract. I would think that Dylan Floro is going to be dealt. He's on an expiring contract, and each guy overall is having a good season. I think the real intrigue is with Finnegan and Thomas. Each guy has a season left of team control. Finnegan having a good season. Thomas has had a very up and down season, missed some time with injury, but that the Nats traded Hunter Harvey would seem to suggest that Finnegan and Thomas are on their ways out. We'll see. Said Rizzo regarding trading Finnegan, quote,
takes a certain guy with stuff and with personality and moxie and guts to do it, and we found one, and we're not going to get rid of it easy.
End quote. Said Rizzo of Lane Thomas, quote,
we're going to do a deal that we're comfortable with, and if we don't, we won't do a deal.
End quote. To me, you translate those quotes as, send me your highest offers. I think these guys are there to be had. I think with Finnegan, you sell high. And I actually think Lane Thomas is instructive in this regard, because remember last season, there was talk of the Nats potentially trading Lane Thomas. He was at what seemed to be peak value, was having a good season, had multiple seasons left of team control. The Nats did not trade him. And now this year has not been as good as last season, and you have one fewer season left of team control. So I would think Finnegan and Thomas are going to be dealt, but what do you think?
I think the Hunter Harvey trade signaled that if nothing else, they are more than open to moving these guys who have another year of control. But I think, as was the case with Harvey, he's not just going to do it for whatever the best offer is. It's going to have to meet a certain bar that he has set. Now, the bar for Harvey was really high, as it turned out. I think most people agree. You get a prospect who looks like a decent player, who I think is already sixth on the Nationals prospect list at the time of the trade, plus what's essentially a sandwich pick between the first and second rounds. So that's a high bar to set. Now, in theory, Kyle Finnegan, under the same club control that Hunter Harvey was, with a better track record in terms of closing in the big leagues, of being an all-star, whether you think that matters or not, it did happen. And I think most importantly, with that no history of injuries that Hunter Harvey does, you would think the asking price should be higher for Kyle Finnegan. So if there's a team out there, and I think this will be interesting, if somebody out there values him as a closer and you can get closer return for him, I think you absolutely make the move. If somebody out there or everybody out there says, yeah, we see him more as more of a setup guy, so we're going to offer you what we'd give a setup guy, and Rizzo says that's not enough, then I don't think he will feel like he has to make that move. I think he's going to stick with whatever he believes is the appropriate value for an all-star closer with another year of control left. In Lane Thomas's case, I agree with you that maybe his performance this year brings him down a notch. You heard last year Rizzo saying that other teams did not value him the same way the Nationals did. They didn't see him as an all-star outfielder, and the Nationals did. Well, I don't think anybody right now is going to see him as an all-star outfielder. They may see him as a platoon outfielder. So if that's the case, do you just move him for whatever you can get? Or do you say, no, we don't have to do that right now. I'm going to make sure if we do it, we're going to get what we think he is worth. The difference between him and Finnegan is the position that he plays. They have far more organizational depth there. It's not hard to envision them fielding an opening day 2025 lineup that doesn't have Lane Thomas in it and not being hurt that much. If Jacob Young keeps doing what he's doing and looks like a viable starting center fielder, then you have him and James Wood and Dylan Cruz, and you should be good to go. So that is the one area that's a little different as opposed to trading away a closer when you don't have anybody else in-house to take over that role. So my takeaway from it all is The Harvey move signaled, yes, we are very much open for business, but I do still think the bar is high, and Rizzo's not going to feel like he has to move either of them. Jesse Winker, Dylan Floro, the best offer he gets, they're gone. With Finnegan and Thomas, it doesn't necessarily have to be the best offer. That offer still has to exceed a certain threshold that Rizzo will be looking for.
I am still stunned that the Nats got what they got for Hunter Harvey. That was a brilliant move by Mike Rizzo. I don't know if that means that the Nats will get as much or more for Finnegan, but yeah, I mean, in theory, Finnegan greater than sign Harvey. So you would think that the Nats might be able to get a nice chunk of change for Kyle Finnegan. We shall see. But man, that trade compensation for Hunter Harvey, I think caught everyone by surprise. I don't think anybody anticipated that. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We always love hearing from you. We have a website you can check out too, natschatpodcast.com, in which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
Here's the pitch. Swing a ground ball right side. That's going to be past the diving India for a base hit in right field. Winker scores. Yepez trying to score. The throw hits Wood on the way in. And so 2-run score as Wood got the throw right off his backside. Hines hit him with the throw. It's a 2-run single for Wood. He's got a big smile on his face after wearing that throw off his backside. Nationals lead 2-1 as James Wood picks up RBIs 8 and 9 in his rookie campaign.
I'm Xavier Worthy, wide receiver, 4th NFL. Speeding. It's a rush on the field, in the zone, where it matters. As an athlete, I push my limits to win. But when I get behind the wheel, I know the importance of slowing down for safety. Because speeding is illegal. It endangers you, your loved ones, and everyone else on the road. Did you know speeding accounts for more than 1/4 of all traffic-related fatalities nationwide? Just like we need to focus to score touchdowns and win games, we need to be in the zone to stay safe on the road. Speed limits are in place to protect everyone, no matter what the speed limit is. Anything over is not only illegal, but dangerous. Like athletes, drivers must stay alert and present because there is no reward for speeding. Nothing is safe about it. Driving over the speed limit might seem like the quicker option, but speeding catches up with you. Stay focused. In a split second, everything can change. Paid for by NHTSA.